This podcast is sponsored by Bellissimo Hats. Bellissimo Hats is the #1 luxurious hat brand in North America. They make all styles for all occasions, and you can even design your own hat. The price for these quality hats are a bargain, so go to bellissimohats.com and use code SFB10 for 10% off at checkout, and enjoy the podcast. Welcome back to the Success from the Best podcast. Today, we have Ruben Levine and his son, Judah Levine, and my dad. Ruben Levine is the CEO and founder of String Bean Technologies, former banker, and now an innovator. And we got a son, Judah, who's working at Salesforce now. Big stuff. And this podcast is sponsored by Bellissimo. So we have Mr. Ruben Levine's hat on the way, and here we have Judah's. So
Thank
here
you.
Go.
This is beautiful.
Yeah.
Can I wear it?
You could if you want.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.
You also got a camera here.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, camera, too. I don't want to leave any cameras out if there's any more.
One right there in the middle.
Beautiful. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
If you want a hat like Judah,
Thank you.
if you want a hat like Judah, use SFB10 by checkout.
Beautiful.
And the discount.
You don't have to wear it if you don't want, whatever you want.
No,
The
I wanna
discount
wear it.
code
Why not?
of Bellissimo Hats. What's the website?
BellissimoHats.com, BELLISSIMO hats.com.
You look very slick.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
have
it
a
looks
big head,
amazing.
too, and it fits perfectly. Everyone who has big heads out there.
You have no idea what I had to
It
do to
fits you-
measure your head while you were sleeping.
It
alone.
fits you
There's not much
nicely.
in there, too, so.
All right, so let's get right into it. So where'd you grow up, and how'd your professional career start?
So I grew up in Los Angeles. I'm an LA boy. Made Aliyah with my family when I was a young boy. After a couple years in Israel, didn't work out so well, so we went back to LA. And after high school, I went to ULA. Believe it or not, I'm the first 4-year graduating class of ULA in 1983. I went to Kerem Biafna in Israel and studied, and because I was an Israeli citizen, I was drafted and served in the Israeli army. And when I got out of the Israeli army, it was too late for the fall semester, so I needed a job, and a buddy of mine suggested I go work for an insurance company that he was involved in LA. And that year, before I actually went to college, was my first exposure to business. And that's I worked for a guy who probably the most honest Jew I ever worked for. His name was Robert Affronti. He was an Italian Catholic from Borough Park. But I loved the guy, and he really made me understand my potential. And he said to me, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And when the 1986 tax law kind of changed and altered the business we were doing and our ability to make the kind of money we were making doing it, he urged me to go off and get my education. So I moved to New York, went to Yeshiva University, and I started my career at Bankers Trust as a structured finance analyst. I didn't get the job because I was smarter. Actually, I was dumber than most of my classmates, but because I was in the Israeli army and I had a year of job experience, I guess that kind of pushed me ahead of the crowd. I did about 12 years in banking, and towards the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years, I spent a lot of time doing due diligence, and I really found my love of just getting inside the operations and understanding how people and process work together and how these business systems actually, become well-oiled machines. And that's when I kind of shifted my career to become more of a business operator. So for about 10 years after that, I was involved with turning around and rolling up businesses and creating exits. And then I finally bought a business.
That's awesome.
I bought a blue-collar business. For 10 years, I ran a blue-collar business, and that's when I realized that there was a technology dying to get out to help manage 65 guys. And I took the plunge and put everything I had into String Bean now 6-7 years ago. And that's my journey. Banker, chimney sweep, tech innovator. And I don't regret it. I don't look back. I've learned a lot of lessons, and just happy to be here with my son and, revel in his accomplishments. And I really There you go. There
That's
you go.
awesome. So what did you want to be when you were a kid?
My mom wanted me to be a dentist. So until about 21, I wanted to do what my mom wanted me to do. And then I woke up one day and I said, I don't think I can work all day with my fingers in people's mouths and bad breath and stuff. I couldn't even hardly handle my own bad breath. So, but I really, really enjoyed building things and building systems and using my sales and motivational, those were the gifts that God gave me I had the gift of gabs, and I was able to just motivate people. And I lead with sincerity, and people follow. And I think if you got great followers, and you're a good follower, because I don't think anyone's truly the leader, but if you're a real good people person, I think you can do many things.
So did you always have that entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah, actually, I took my bar mitzvah money and I bought, I don't know, a couple $100 worth of magic tricks when I was 14. And I became the Great Rubini. I made a sign and I put it in all the schools and shuls and public schools, and I did a couple free shows and the next thing I knew, I was riding around the San Fernando Valley with a suitcase that I painted the Great Rubini on, and I was doing.
What was this? This was what, like you said when you were 13, like 80 years ago.
It's crazy. We got to get you Great Rubini t-shirts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people from my childhood that still call me the Great Rubini, or they call me Rubini. But I made some good money and I had a lot of fun. And from that day forward, I'm always finding myself in a situation where I'm entertaining. If it's not other employees, if it's coworkers, it's clients, investors, you got to be able to back it up, but if you're going to entertain, you got to be able to pull the rabbit out of the hat at the end of the day.
Does Judah know magic? Did you teach him that magic?
No, but I remember there was a trick he used to do with Reese's peanut butter cups. It's probably why I'm like the way I look, but he used to do a trick with Reese's. I don't remember what it was. I just remember eating a lot of them. And I used to ask him to do it multiple times because I just didn't get the trick. I understood it right away. I just wanted more, I
just wanted more. I got it.
So
if you want your son to be about 8 inches taller than you, feed him a lot of Reese's peanut butter cups. This is what I say.
That's the trick.
Okay.
All right.
So it's not working over here.
No. So why do you choose the name String Bean when you created this company?
So being a former finance person, they call finance people bean counters, right? They're the bean counters. If you're going to be a good bean counter, you really need to be able to translate the dollars to activities and costs of doing business. They call it unit cost. So the unit cost of delivering a particular widget has so many components inside of it. What String Bean done is what I believe is the missing piece of what the services business is looking for, and that is being able to take labor and break it down to its associated unit cost of work. So if it takes me 3 hours to get someone to a job and 3 hours back from a job, if we only look at the time they spent on the job, the hour, we lose the 6 hours that we spent of windshield time getting them there, and you can price your work, and pretty much lose your shirt without even thinking about it. Oh, we're going to be there for 2 hours and let's charge $250 an hour for this one guy. We're going to take it home, but someone forgets. So without the ability to understand how long things take, how hard it is to get to equipment on a building to do the work, what kind of equipment you need, the scarcity of that equipment, those materials. So we kind of came up with this concept that we're going to string all these beans together for people. And that's kind of how it spawned. And I remember I was reading Stephen Jobs' book and how he and Steve Wozniak were driving back from an apple orchard one day when they were thinking about starting Macintosh, and they decided to name their company after an apple. And the rationale was there is if we can be sitting in a room and have everybody using the word apple and nobody thinking about a fruit, then we know we've accomplished something. So now when I sit in a room with a bunch of construction guys and tradesmen and engineers, and everyone's saying, send me a string bean, and no one's thinking about a vegetable, I feel really good that we're onto something. So how's that for a background on it?
Can I just take a step back? Because a lot of the audience that's going to be listening to this are going to be
Curious
Oh.
what string bean is.
well, they don't know what string bean is.
Right.
Meaning, let's kind of go macro and micro. So string bean is, what's the why of string bean? What void is it filling? What is it? Like, what is it? It's, I mean, I know it is because I got tours and I was blown away by it. But what is it? It's a prop tech. How does it work with buildings? What is the
Sure.
need that you noticed that became this birth child of yours?
Right now, or at least until string bean came along, if you wanted to get somebody else to do something, you'd have to either look over their shoulder and stand there and watch them and coach them and make sure they did it right. That's level one. Very expensive to have every job supervised by somebody else, because you might as well just do it yourself. But that's impossible. The next level is you send people to training and you hope that they've retained what they've been trained. But more often than not, some people just may be dishonest and cheat the system, but other people forget. So you give them checklists, but you don't know if they're really checking the boxes. So the idea of string bean is to allow people who are not technically adept to write code or anything like that to create their own audio-visual, multi-dimensional work guides that I can ask them questions. If they answer yes to a question, they can go down this path. If they answer no to a question, I could kick off alerts. So we created this whole programmable system that's completely object-oriented so that I could create a process or a procedure and impart it on someone else. And in so doing, not only am I guiding them through the work, I'm actually measuring how long it takes. I'm building in all the anomalies and aberrations and outliers that could possibly be observed on a job. So it's giving the individual who's doing the work on the job reinforcement and training as they're doing it. It's monitoring that they're actually and validating and creating accountability without my having to be there and look over their shoulders. So I'm taking my brain, my knowledge, and I'm imparting it into this workflow. And I can give it to anyone else. It could be something as simple as, before you go ahead and use this toxic chemical, please make sure to put on your personal protective equipment and take a selfie. Normally, I would have to hire some company in India to develop an app for me just to do that one thing. What we did is we created a whole programmable library where people can make these things. We onboard customers in a day. That's how fast you can go from a checklist to an actual living, breathing guide. That is, how's that for an explanation?
Well, but who's the customer? Who's the client? Who's getting most interested in your product? I mean, one of the first things that we were talking about, which I thought was crazy, it was amazing, is that you told me that a real estate company that you were trying to onboard, they actually used the technology for people to check whether or not they've been vaccinated or if they had sniffles or something during COVID. What's your client? Like, who's the most ideal client for you?
The toughest part of starting streaming was identifying the marketplace that we should go after, because there's processes and procedures and remote people everywhere that can ultimately use a string bean like product. But as you know, if you do too many things for too many people, you end up doing nothing. So because I had so much domain expertise in property management, having run a fire and environmental services company for 10 years, I had all the connections. I understood where all the pain points are. The reality is, and COVID, lahavdil, I shouldn't say such a thing, but it actually helped string bean because it dispersed all of this labor, and all of the supervision could not overlap. And now people had to go ahead and monitor and make sure their workers didn't get sick. They were spending $10,000 on getting some little technology to do health checks. In the meantime, we had a real estate company that had over 150 people, and they just created a workflow in string bean to do that. It has nothing to do with property management, but they were able to employ that kind of thing. We have clients who they have nobody at their shopping malls that are keeping an eye on the shopping mall. Their property managers show up at the shopping mall once a month, maybe. In the meantime, every single day there are workers coming and going. They don't know when they came. They don't know when they left. They don't know what they did when they were there. They don't know if they're getting what they paid for. And they're using StringBean to monitor the coming and going of their vendors. It could be a sweeper to a HVAC guy. And we use QR codes that people scan in and out. And the beauty is that they made these workflows themselves. They didn't have to spend months and thousands of dollars to do that. So our client is primarily real estate owners who want to monitor work by others. And those others can be their own employees who have to do things, or it could be third-party employees. And we want to engage this ecosystem so that we can give visibility to the property owners while they're doing that. I would say that the one industry that's really blowing up for us beautifully is hospitals, because hospitals have so much regulation. If something goes wrong there, so that's been a big push for us. There's armies of people.
Can you talk about which hospitals that you work with? Or no?
Bound by confidentiality, but suffice to say, we work with one of the top 5 ranked hospital systems in the country. And at the other end of the spectrum, we have a 23-bed hospital in the Cayman Islands that uses StringBean.
I mean, I think it would be great because I remember I went to the bathroom in a hospital 15 some odd years ago when my mother was there, and I walked into the toilet was stuffed, and there was horribleness on the floor. And I thought it was disgusting. How does the hospital have this? So I went, and they had the chart where the people sign where they, and the date and time was like within like an hour of this.
Yeah.
So I was very upset because the hospital has to be healthy, right? You got to be clean. So I went and caused a stink, and sure enough, the person just,
They, you know what they call that? They call that pencil whipping. We just had a show at San Antonio for the hospital industry. People just came by and says, this is going to get rid of all the pencil whipping. We had another engineer say to us.
What you're saying is that someone is pretending to have been there. They just sign it and they walk out.
Or just claiming that they did the work, too.
Yeah, but when someone finally gets, some sort of botulism or disease and they sue the hotel, they're going to produce this piece of paper.
What does StringBean provide the hospital or the hotel? What's your solution? How do you fix that?
Well, first of all, we GPS track geocode so that people aren't, sitting in their living room and just checking boxes.
Right.
We geocode where they are. We also put QR codes, what we call them asset beacons, throughout the property, so they're scanning them as they're moving along. And because we collect information of every single time this is done, we can actually measure. This step takes usually 2 minutes, and then the next step takes, and we're always comparing all the jobs to that. And if there's an outlier, like something that takes 45 minutes took 4 minutes, we're actually surfacing that up. And because they're able to verify and validate that, the health inspectors and regulators are appreciating this level of policing that the hospitals are putting into motion.
So I'm sorry to try to keep this as simple as possible, but so let's say I'm responsible for cleaning the bathrooms at, XYZ hospital, and there's a StringBean they're a client of StringBean. So now I walk into the bathroom. What happens?
Well, if you're the commercial cleaner, if you're just a patient, or
no, I'm a commercial cleaner, or I'm on staff in the hospital.
So the first thing they do, they go up to a sign that says vendor check-in, check-out sign. They scan it. They put on a 4-digit code that belongs just to that commercial cleaning company. They identify who they were, because they're explained that we also need, for infection control purposes, to know who touches the property. So then we know who you were. It says, thank you very much, CBS Cleaning, for coming to the hospital today. Please begin your work and scan the codes as you move throughout the building. And they can free-form it. And then at the end, it'll say to them, oh, you hit 18 out of 27 areas you're supposed to hit. Are you going to get to the other 9 now? Or are you going to do it another time? So it helps create this level of quality control. Sometimes it's non-accessible areas. Well, I want to know that so that someone comes back later. And we set up these little breadcrumbs, for lack of a better word, and to get Hansel and Gretel to follow their way to back to the castle. So and we see this. We have commercial properties that are doing this for their commercial cleaning companies. This office gets hit once a week. That office gets hit once a day. This office take out the trash and clean the pantry. So you can create in Stringbean all these unique activities and tie them to these breadcrumbs or.
So if I'm a building manager, I can just sit at my desk and just watch my portfolio of properties real time on a dashboard.
All right, so
Correct.
I have a question on like just building a company itself, right? Because you start from the ground up. You already had another company, right? And now you have this new idea. And so how do you have the confidence that it was going to be successful? Because it's a great idea, but you don't necessarily know how successful it's going to be, right?
Oh God. At the fire environmental services company that I was at, we actually built a technology to manage logistics for our workers, and with a lot of mazel and bracha, and or at least we thought the technology had a lot of legs, and we brought in some outside investors, and it ended up getting bought by Microsoft in 2015. But it wasn't without a tremendous amount of pain. So the first thing was I had an opportunity to seed and incubate a technology company while I had a regular business. And it taught me a lot of things and made me have a reality check as to how awesome a task doing something like this was. Number one. Number two, it also made me realize that my partner and I had a different vision of where we wanted to take our professional lives and where we wanted to go. So it also served as the impetus for us to part ways. And that's when I said, so what am I going to do now? Am I going to go buy another company? Am I going to go work for somebody else? Or am I going to now bite the bullet and really go and double down on this? I had a couple of backers that helped invest in things that I was involved in the past who believed in me and trusted me. And they were good enough to say, you know what, Ruben, I think you're onto something. And then we went to a couple of my clients just to validate Stringbean was something that would be useful. And they all told us, this is great. I haven't seen anything like it. If it was available today, I'd buy it. Don't come to me as soon as it's out of the lab. First come to me after you have like 3 massive buildings, that are using this and get all because I run a hospital here. I run a data center here. I don't have time to like tinker around with you. I think for the average Joe, doing what I did is pretty much nuts at the age of 50 to go ahead and start and double down and do something like this. But I just had this itch that needed to be scratched. I knew this was going to work if we could get it right. And I had a lot of faith. And over the years, I've been able to engage people, your dad being one of them, into our ecosystem and to our world. And they push me. If you don't surround yourself with people who will ask the right questions and challenge you, and you're not going to be successful. So
Right.
I'm one of those unique guys who just probably ought to have done something else, normal and low risk and so on and so forth. But I knew this was going to be something. I knew this was going to be something that people were going to want. And now we're getting that validation. But don't think it's the loneliest business in the world, pushing, an idea out of nowhere. And if I didn't surround myself with great people who helped me and believed me and drank that Kool-Aid with me, we would not be where we are today. And by the way, we're not out of the woods. We still have a long way to go. There's no high-fiving yet.
Right. So also on that, it's when you first start a company, it's a lot of spending and no money coming in at first, right? So how do you maintain that like persistence and confidence in your company and your idea while you're not making anything? If anything, you're just spending.
I'll tell you what my investors tell me, which gives me a tremendous amount of pressure. I lose more sleep over this than anything else. I'm not betting on the business. I'm betting on the jockey, is what they tell me.
What does that mean?
They're betting on the guy riding the
great
horse.
Rubini.
They're betting on me. They're betting on my passion. They're betting on my not giving up, and they're betting on the fact that I'm not going to let them down, and they're betting on the fact that they know that I know and I say it to them, there's not a planet far enough from Earth that I will be able to move to if I fail you, kind of thing. And they see how hard I work. They see when my emails come to them at the hours of the night and early hours in the morning. And it's a, I got it from the Israeli army, I'll tell you. That's where I learned how to, when you think you've done 50 push-ups and you can't do any more and your officers are yelling at you that you've only gone 2/3 of the way, that's just been in my head. It's 8 o'clock. Should I go home? No, get 2 more emails out, and it's just, being able to do the work of many, and to surround yourself with people who can align themselves with that, which is rare too, identifying those people. But I have more to lose than everybody. And that's the other thing that everybody understands. And I've followed a lot of entrepreneurs in my day, successful, some unsuccessful. Most were not successful out of the gate, myself included. Every day has a couple of successes that bring us forward and a couple of failures and lessons learned that bring you backward. You get better at iterating them. You get better at contingency planning. But now, now we have real marquee customers. I can't tell, at least publicly, who this hospital is, for instance, but don't think that it doesn't become known when I meet with Columbia Presbyterian or Sloan Kettering or Kaiser Permanente, prospects, by the way, in process. But when you can go ahead and tell them, listen, I'll just tell you who my crown jewel is, and you can speak to them for reference. And those people will take the call and actually back you up. That's, it's not about me anymore. Right?
Flattery is the greatest, source of referral.
All right.
I actually wanted to quickly circle back on something about the whole hard work aspect of it. I'll be driving around with my fiance or friends, and I'll literally drive by my dad's office, not purposely. I'll see his car in the driveway on Saturday nights, Sundays. He works very hard. So Obviously I'm sure that's part of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Is the fact that seeing him do those things motivated me obviously to work really hard too.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, seeing everything that your dad's been doing, even at just 50 years old, right? What have you learned from your dad, whether it's work ethic, following up, what have you learned from your dad?
So in the beginning, obviously school wasn't for me. I didn't do school. I actually dropped out, and I started off at my dad. And I would say the first test run wasn't amazing. I needed to go somewhere else and learn how to work hard. I started off at a different place. I found a lot of success there. I was globally the top rep for a startup, raised over $1 billion. And
wow.
And I ended up.
At what age?
It was actually a year and a half ago. I was kind of a bum for the first 20 somewhat years of my life, but
in terms of school,
so I would say school, and I didn't have much I didn't really have a driving factor. I didn't have many things that I looked at and said wow, I really want to do this.
I mean, I know you as a legendary basketball player, so
I don't know. I don't know.
You always had the work ethic though, right?
You can't say that. You can't.
I don't know, because at practices I used to joke around a lot. I think my coach was all right, he's 6'7", he could do whatever he wants, and I was a one-off, but. Truth is when I started working and I got into I was in unfamiliar water at company that I didn't know anybody, and I was you know what, it's time to really give it a try, and seeing the success and the hard work that my dad obviously has been working extremely hard my whole entire life, seeing how he was a family man and also an extremely hard worker was super motivating. I think it taught me, back to your question, that you could take chances literally whenever, right? I mean, look what you're doing. You have a great podcast, right? You took a chance on a podcast, and you're going to work hard. You like it. And I think it taught me a very valuable lesson that, if you're going to do something, you got to give it 100%. And I think throughout the beginning of my life, I gave things maybe 75%, maybe 60%. My grades were definitely close to the 50s, but You know,
I think you've had company down there, no?
Yeah. I'm there with you.
yeah, but the truth is that I have this whole motto now with work. Like, I'm in sales, so I have a quota every single month, and I work at Salesforce. It's extremely hard to hit that quota. It's like everybody uses us already. We have to find a certain amount of opportunities every single month, and almost every single team that I sell to uses us. So it's very hard and super strategic. And the one thing that I always taught myself, people that I meet with at Salesforce, they want to understand, how I do things. Truth is like, if you give everything 100%, I'm a firm believer that when you look back at it, you will never be able to like second guess yourself. And that's my motto, like giving something 100%, 110%, however hard you want to work, you cannot feel bad for yourself. But if you look back at something after giving it like 60% or not working as hard,
Sure.
You could look back and you could say, what if I did this correctly? What if I didn't? And like, that's been what's been great for me the past like year and a half.
But I think just to add, outside looking in, when I got my first job in investment banking, I hated building financial models. I hated it. For 2 years, I ate, slept, and crapped financial modeling. I sat in a bunker with 2 other analysts. That's all we did, is build Excel spreadsheets to model LBOs. Now, there's not a day that goes by that I'm not using those financial skills today. Right. There's not a day. It's like inside my bones, and people are still today impressed how I can build a financial depiction or a model, but I hated it. But when you find something that you love to do, that it just gets you up in the morning. Judah's always had the gift of gab. He's always been an entertainer. You can say what you want about not doing great in school and not having, the skills, the studious skills, which many have and go very far.
You knew I didn't do well in school?
You mean everybody thought you were an A student?
I was on a speed dial with your principal.
Yeah.
Anyways, but he figured out, probably at a younger age, believe it or not, than I did, that if he harnessed that skill and really invested in it, he was going to be great at it. And it's the early innings, but so far,
I think that's
Judah. Not that you want to be a lifetime Salesforce employee, you just want to say that, rise to level of CEO. If that's not your aspiration, what are you thinking about?
So funny enough, I'm almost positive that I like found what I want to do. I mean, I'd love to be like the head of sales at like a big tech company one day. But the thing that's really cool about what I do is like selling. It's not really sales from like the way I look at it. Like when I call people up and I'm trying to reach out to them, I'm not selling them something. I'm trying to help them, right? Like I think that's the most important part, is like a lot of people focus on like selling. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to sit down with you, understand how you do things so I could see how I could help.
So you really have to believe in your brand and your product in order to sell someone
100%.
because you think that they genuinely need it.
Yeah, I think that's like the most important thing besides actually like loving what you do, is like the product that you're selling or like working for or like doing. It definitely has to be something that you believe in, because that goes hand in hand. And the thing that's really great about like tech, I think your idea, Salesforce, they're all great ideas, is that like when you're calling someone and you're reaching out to them, like you're helping them too. You're not just trying to like get them to pay for something. You're also building relationships, which is probably my favorite part of the job, is like reaching out to people and actually having relationships with them.
And that's some of the most important part of the job.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like a lot of people forget about that when they sell. It's like, it's not selling. It's like helping. So, yeah, I think back to my dad's point is it really is enjoying what you do, because like I'll be watching Netflix. My fiance does not like this, but we'll be watching TV and I'll be just like reaching out to people and like talking to them. And like, you look by a day and you're like, oh, I worked like 13 hours today. But the truth is it doesn't feel like work.
You hit the nail on the head right there.
It doesn't feel like work. And that's the best part of it, is like sales to me. It's something that I really enjoy. I like.
That's what everybody says. If you want to be successful in something, find something that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Right. And that it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, like last night I was trying to get onto my work computer, and I sent it into my like group chat with all my colleagues, and they're like, "What are you doing at like 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday night trying to get into Salesforce?" I'm like, I don't know. I was just trying to
Right.
like.
So do you think that because it seems like, I mean, from the way I see it, I may be wrong, that from this point on with your company, you've already created the product. At this point, it's all about sales, right? About selling big clients on using your brand, your company, right? So is that where you got your salesmanship from your dad, from seeing him always selling to big brands?
I can't hold a candle to where he sells.
No, the
He's
truth
been
is,
selling me since he's born.
Yeah, yeah. It's the only reason I'm not kicked out of the house yet. But I think the sales thing was something that a lot of people were telling me that I should try, because I am not meant to sit behind a desk. But I think the hard work part is for sure something that I learned.
He's going to wait for us, I think. It's DHL where you have to sign the package and everything.
Speaking of DHL,
Yeah.
I sent $750 worth of pens and swag to this show in San Antonio last week via DHL. And DHL lost our giveaways. So I arrived in San Antonio, Texas on Sunday afternoon with 3 hours to set up a booth, having never set up a booth before, without any giveaways or half the stuff we needed.
Well, I'll tell you who's not going to get things on time from DHL anymore.
Yeah.
Him, after they see this.
But I could tell you right now that Judah and his fiance Gwenny.
No, it was for sure my fiance's idea.
She calls me up on Sunday. They call me up on Sunday and says, "This is a blessing in disguise, Dad, because nobody wants your monogram pens and your stupid golf balls, anyways."
I didn't say it like that.
Well,
Said it a lot worse. No, I'm just kidding.
So they said, go find a really innovative bakery that makes like K-Cups or cookies that nobody else has.
Cake pops.
And
Cake pops.
we found this place called the Cookie Plug that had like 19 different flavored and colored cookies. I said, all the ones with nuts, get rid of. How many do you have left? He said, we have 13. I said, I'll buy 10 of each, got 130 cookies. We stacked them at our booth. And we were actually right by the innovation center at this place where they already had coffee and cookies. And people would take their cookie and coffee, walk by. I had a trash can. They'd throw away their cookie and grab one. They look like hockey pucks. The second day of the show, someone comes by with a picture of a guy sitting at a white tablecloth, table at a steakhouse. I was at a 5-star steakhouse last night. It was delicious. It came time for dessert. And this guy pulls out, look, and a napkin is sitting our cookie. And he says, no, I'm not ordering dessert. I'm fine. And everyone was like, where'd you get that? Go check out booth 1515. It turned out to be the best accident and the best mishap. I'm thanking DHL for losing my stuff. I even bought insurance. So.
And now you have a plug for a bakery in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, I was all over them. They were Facebook and
there you go.
But
They posted you on Facebook?
I posted it on Facebook.
Oh, okay. I thought they posted you.
But I tell you, it's just to digress a little bit about being unique and being able to find a way to entertain people. There's no better feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We get people in here.
You use social media a lot, right? Do you think that's a big help for a business?
Look, Ken, nobody can hold a candle to your LinkedIn action. I'm telling you. I'm curious how many people you have behind the scenes being you.
It's becoming more and more me as days go on.
But it's.
I find myself rejecting people trying to connect to me now because they seem to be different parts of the world or other
outside
worlds.
Your strike zone.
Yes.
That's how I've actually enjoyed LinkedIn as a tool. I'm not really a Twitter handle guy or anything like that.
Do you find it important? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, does it get you business? Like, do people know you before you enter the room?
Sure. Now Judah's had an opportunity to take a look at my contacts. I think they've probably got 3,000 or 4,000 very relevant. It's allowed me to establish myself as kind of like a thought leader. I'm not really selling anything. I'm putting thought-provoking ideas out there, and it's I'm getting great responses, and I'm engaging with people, learning. It's good.
Right. So for Judah, so what have you said about work ethic that you learned from your father, but what do you implement into whether it's your salesmanship or just because Salesforce is kind of similar to what your father does, right? Kind of like,
Yeah,
in a way, it kind of like helps the everyday person. Just, I think, I mean, you can probably explain it better than me, but in a different way. So what do you implement into your daily basis in your business that you learned from your father?
So I would say in a funny way, I don't really implement much of what I learned from his company to Salesforce because I really don't try to sell people on anything. I try to like build relationships with people, meet with them frequently, and then like further down the line, like get to understand what they do. I honestly try to not even mention where I work ever to anybody because I just don't want to scare them away.
Right.
Second you mention where you work, someone will probably stop answering.
But in terms of what you learned from your father, I mean, me dealing on a business level with your father, there's no better communicator, relationship builder.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I you know, and I have spoken to other investors of your father, and it could not be string bean, it could be green beans, and they would invest with him because, you know, he's honest as the day is long. Someone, you know, humility as he walks in the room. Sorry, I'm sorry. I got to be honest. You know,
I've been accused of my moral compass being off the charts, so it actually hurts me more.
No, I mean you don't dress very well, but your
I tell him
character's
that all
stellar.
the time.
You know,
tell him that all the time.
I got to knock you down a little bit. You know,
He doesn't even wear my hand-me-downs anymore.
I used to wear his hand-me-downs. That's when I wanted to look good.
Right.
But
well, now you have a nice hat, so
yeah. I think the best answer would definitely be persistence. Like not everybody's gonna answer you and you know answer your messaging, but following up with people.
As my dad says, "F you" is the most important thing.
Yeah.
you know what
They
F
have
you
it on
means?
hats.
Follow up.
My dad has on the hats. Hashtag
Really?
F you. Yeah.
Really?
They made me change it, so now it's hashtag follow up. But
Yeah.
So
You
I'll take the
never know
first
who's
hat.
reading it.
yeah. I have a partner who's over 70, and I'm like, you know, don't worry, I'll F you. And he's like, what'd you just say?
I didn't know that you liked me like that.
I'm like, follow up because whew, okay.
Yeah. So my dad says follow up is like the most important thing.
No, it really is. Following up with people, reaching out to them and being super persistent. And yeah, I think the hard work aspect of it too, just like seeing him, even if like there's a week or a day where I'm like, oh, you know, probably don't want to do work today. Probably just like take a look at the effort that my dad's putting in. He posts like every single day, and probably say like, okay, you know, I could probably give it another go and just like get out of bed and like wake up super early and like do my thing. So definitely like hard work and persistency, and being kind to people too at the same time. I think he
Being a mensch.
specifically has a lot on his plate 24/7, probably doing a lot of different things that he probably doesn't want to, you know, do or like could handle, and being able to like balance those things and like have enough time in the day to do those things definitely motivates me to like wake up early.
I'm not alone. You know, let's cut to the chase. You know, I know your schedule and how you live your life, and most of the people I know who are successful, they've found a way to get more water out of a rock. You know, they get more.
Yeah, but
out
we're
of it,
we're talking about the way that you affected me.
Yeah, I know, but just so you know, Judah,
He's
I
the
don't,
rock.
I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't really think that what I do is anything any more than the next guy that at least I'm aware of.
I agree, but I think that staying consistent with your schedule is a very hard thing to do. I'm sure you could attest to that. It's really important to be on a routine and a schedule. And I think waking up extremely early in the morning and working until extremely late at night, and then watching like some weird movies or TV shows that you turn on.
You got to drain the brain a little bit.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it's all part of a
Yeah,
routine.
yeah,
And what I'm saying is that
100%.
like it's really hard to be consistent on a routine where you're extremely busy.
Right. Also, you want to go?
No, that's your gig.
Okay. Thanks.
I
So-
want to hear about how you're influenced by your dad a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like to
know,
hear
you're
that.
still- we're
Maybe
still-
we should
we're
start
stealing
asking
all
some
your
questions.
thunder. We want to turn the table here, but what were you going to ask?
No, I was gonna ask because I think you said that you don't think that you're working any harder than like the average guy, but I think it's more because you're surrounding yourself with so many successful people that you don't feel you're working any harder than them or your schedule is any harder than them. But compared to the average person in America, no one's working with that schedule. If you think about it that way.
Well, maybe if they got a hold of string bean, people work a little harder. Who knows?
Or smarter. Swing bean makes you work smarter, not
not
necessarily
harder.
harder. Right.
But that is so true that you need to be working smarter, not harder. I know plenty of people who do amazing things in a 4-hour window of time that others can't do in 12, even though they're sitting at the same desk. I think a lot of it has to do with you loving what you do and not being a painful process.
How do you think AI, sorry to interrupt, but your AI is, is that like going through your brain constantly? Like, how am I going to implement that into String Bean?
AI is such a giant, it's such a giant amorphous black hole of a word that it means so many things to different people. We use AI, number one, to onboard clients really fast.
Oh, so you're using it.
Well, if I get a call from a hospital and say, we want to do an environment of care rounds for our property, and I don't know what the hell environment of care means, and I don't know what that is, you go on to ChatGPT, you type in environment of care, and please give me some sample surveys that done. It's like, boom, and then by the time we show up to the meeting, we've got a whole workflow built into String Bean before even the meeting. And when we scheduled the meeting, we didn't even know, I couldn't tell you the difference between an EOC and my elbow. So, what's beautiful is the tool that we've built allows us to execute very quickly by way of onboarding clients, but also to prepare for sales calls. So we use ChatGPT for those, that element of artificial intelligence. What String Bean also does very effectively when it comes to AI is it serves as the institutional memory for a property. And what I mean by that is if someone goes and takes gauge readings, I don't know, I think over at this one top 5 hospital, they will look at 96 pieces of equipment in one particular property every 2 hours, like it's a patient on life support. If any of these 96 pieces of equipment go out of kilter, it'll change pressurization inside ORs where people are getting bone transplants and bone marrow transplants. There's water, heating and cooling, and the differential between these inflows and outflows has to be absolute precision. We track all of this information over time. But we also track the weather patterns that are going around the building at the time, because in certain weather patterns, the higher humidity levels will actually require that these things change. So when someone goes in and puts in a number for the PSI and it's 13 and it's supposed to be between 8 and 12, which is what the historical trends are, it'll say, are you sure this is your answer? Because people have fat thumbs. Sometimes they transpose information. And if it's in fact 13, it's going to send off all kinds of red lights and alerts and escalations to people, and they're going to stop surgery possibly if things are out of kilter, right? So the second thing we do is was there any time that the 13 was reported in the history? And if yes, what was the outside temperature at the time? What was the time of day at the time? So that all of this information, you know how much time it would take a technician standing in front of a machine in the bowels of a hospital to gather this information, to find this information. They have a split second to do it. So we've tried to implement artificial intelligence where it makes sense and people lean forward and go, wow, with that. But we're very cautious because I don't want to disenfranchise the human element. It's so much of what we're doing is making people better at what they
More
do.
efficient.
You're not replacing them. You're helping them.
I want them to be as effective and as efficient as possible. I want the owners of the properties and buildings to get the most bang out of their buck, out of their people.
Right.
And that's the passion that we kind of put that forward. That's it.
Yeah. So, do you want to go? You have a question?
You got to get moving.
This call.
Oh, okay, fine.
No,
All
no,
right.
I'm not. We're not stopping. I'm just.
We also have to get going. It's his fiance's bridal shower today, so
Oh,
I have to go
nice.
pick up some things. And
Yeah, I have to lose like 25 pounds by 1:30 today.
What are you doing to implement that?
Nothing. Probably gonna go get
Less
lunch
Reese's-
after.
Less Reese's cups.
Yeah, less Reese's peanut butter cups.
So, can I ask the last question?
Yeah.
Oh, unless you have to go. So, I ask this to a lot of people that have startups or just people that have started companies. So, you did this in how long? How long did you start String Bean?
we started String Beans. We just celebrated our 6-year anniversary.
Wow. So, if you did all this in 6 years, you have big hospitals working with you, big clients. Where do you see it in the next 6 to 10 years?
There's so many curveballs that have been thrown at us over the last 6 years that I realize that whatever I thought this was going to be 6 years ago is different. It's very hard to predict. I think the most important thing is that I want this to be a sustainable, self-sustainable, profitable entity. I view String Bean as a piece of property where we're creating amenities that attract anchor tenants who use our technology and pay us. And then they open that up to their contractors and subcontractors to start using and driving foot traffic. And they begin to start telling friends about this mall or whatever and this great, facility that they went to. And it's a lot of fun. They have a great ice cream store. And in the meantime, more and more people are paying rent in this property. It's just the difference is I'm not brick and mortar. I'm just a bunch of servers sitting in some Amazon bunker somewhere, and it's very easy for us to add another server. So I view this as like a piece of real estate where we're charging leases to people and giving them amenities. And if we can get this on its own 2 feet, I think we'll have all kinds of opportunities of where this will go. This could just be a great source of income, passive income to its ownership one day. Someone may come along and say, I want to buy it and cash out, and we'll make a decision then. One day, Judah may decide that Salesforce is not for him, and some of the other partners we have might put their next generation. I can't plan that. In the meantime, I think to take a phrase from what Judah was talking about, I just want to have fun. I want to help people solve problems. Nothing gives me more joy than being able to do that. And if I can stop leaning on capital sooner rather than later, that's my number one priority. And then I think opportunities will be abundant for us.
So right now you're just focusing on the short-term goals and not really focus on like where you'll be in 10 years. And then eventually you'll get beyond where you thought you would be now in 10 years.
Well, I'm confident, String Bean, if we could continue to fuel this flame that we've got going on, is going to be a very, very, very big part.
We're looking to acquire a 1 million square foot mall. As we're walking around it, and I see how poorly it's run, I'm thinking String Bean. So
Right.
I'm
And soon everyone will be.
What?
And soon everyone will
Yeah,
be.
exactly.
Besides me, I don't eat vegetables. Just saying.
I'm hopeful that String Bean will continue to go on the life of its own that it's on, the derech that it's on. I love this horse. I'm glad to be its jockey, and I hope people continue to help me get there. And it's really not about me.
You're trying to help, like your son said.
I'm just a piece of piece of this, and we need to continue to attract good talent. And I think we're going to do something special here, and our clients are verifying and validating that. But we still have to go to work every single day. Say there is no tomorrow.
Right.
It's like we got to kick today. We just got to really, really accomplish, and that it kicks the alternative sitting around on a couch watching TV and just woe is me. I know a lot of people like that. I feel sorry for them, and I hope everybody can get this chance to have people believe in me and believe in us and believe in our mission. I hope that doesn't end, and if that continues to go, we'll be in a very special place. People can smell it now, more so than ever.
And it's very sticky. It's very sticky.
Yeah, my dad won't. Yeah, my dad always says string beading is very sticky. Once you join, you're never leaving it.
Yeah, it's like it's data plumbing.
Because people, once you use it and you see the power of it, we've seen this in mutual friends and clients of ours. These property managers won't take on another property without string beading. So if that's how he's managing his portfolio, I think you're doing a service for anybody who's managing a large portfolio. Whether it's, and that's also another thing, it's every asset class can benefit from this prop tech. So, you know, whether it's car dealership companies, hospitals, retail centers, I've walked around with you in major buildings around Manhattan, right? And I was just in awe inspired by it. And the property manager's like, I would never do this without string beading ever, which is amazing.
Well, I appreciate you spending all this time because I know how busy you are walking around Manhattan with me. Please let me know the next time you can do that with me because I always get something out of it.
I'd love it.
I know we got to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
I wanted to wish you a phenomenal year next year.
Thank you.
It's a very important year.
Yeah.
It shapes you for the rest of your life. Most people.
Thank you.
Certainly shaped mine, and you should be matzliach and continue to give a lot of nachas.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And also, we've been talking about your schedule and how busy you are, and you gave me this time, so thank you so much.
No, it's no big deal.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Anytime. And continue to do this. Just go. Follow your passion like this.
Yeah.
And thank you for the awesome hat.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, thank you for the hat.
Thank you for watching. Go to SFB10 on BelisaBleHats.com.